This video is entitled the WinTRF Range Change Utility. The WinTRF Range Change Utility is another of the very useful utilities provided with the WinTRF systems. This utility gives you the tools that you will need to manage changes over a large group of items with one keystroke. To launch the Range Change utility, we go to Start, we go to Programs, we go to Certain Software Systems, we go down to WinTRF Range Change Utility. When the WinTRF Range Change utility is displayed, you will see that there's a series of 3 tabs across the top, and we will talk about each one of them. It also tells you what your current data directory is in case you were changing directories. This reassures you that you're going to make the changes in your current directory. The way the program works is by you select a range of parts by either using the Begin Updating button or the Stop Updating button, or the Begin and End button. Regardless of the method, I like to go and do it over a range of items. I always have a printed parts file on my desk, the whole parts file, so I always know what I want to update. So let's say I wanted to update from this item here to the number 10 THW solid. Okay, now I've selected that, and let me go back here, and I forgot to mention that when you do your searches, you can do your searches by part number and by description. And if you recall, when we talked about the parts in the parts file, descriptions is very difficult to do. That's why it's always important to have a printed report so that you can, let's do this correctly. Since I went back in there, I messed up what I was doing. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to select my range again. Okay, now that I've got my range of items, what I do is the way that I recommend that you do this is you use the tab key to tab down through the fields. If you want to change a vendor or assign a vendor to these items, then you could assign any of your vendors to that group of items. Then you click your tab key. As long as this field is no change, then nothing's going to happen to those that you've already assigned. If this field is blank, then you're going to assign blank to the vendor name for that range of items. The same thing with material account code. You can go in and change the material account code, or to click the tab key to go to the next field. You can change the price service column, very rarely used if ever, and again you do right click and it'll go through that item. You can click the material list from rough, trim, or other, also very rarely used. Unit of measure, you can go and change the unit of measure for that group of item. You can change the takeoff type to add it to the count list or to the length list, and this is only used by one of the digital screen takeoff programs, because when you export items to them, they want to know if the item that you are exporting is a count item or a length item. So this is what you would use this utility, that part of this utility for. The item that is most used by all our users is the cost change percentage. What this does is it changes the multiplier for the between standard material price and bid material price to some value. So if you change that value to say 0.75 and hit the tab key, you would see that this is what's going to be assigned to this group of items. Standard to net labor multiplier also assigns a multiplier between the standard net labor units and the bid labor units, and it would assign that to that whole group of items. Again, I click the tab key, and now I'm on the watch list. The watch list, as you recall, is a subset of the parts file that you would like to be able to check every once in a while. Instead of printing out and checking 15,000 items every time you wanted to check them, you're only going to check the items that are on your watch list. It would be a small list of the volatile items that you want to check, and this is how you would add a range of items to that list. I click the tab key and I go to the cost freeze list. What the cost freeze list is, if you recall when we talked about the parts file, the cost freeze list, when you freeze a part, you're freezing the bid price, and so that when you do a electronic update, you change the standard price, and because you've frozen the bid price, the multiplier between standard and bid will change. Once I've got that done, I click OK, and the program will process what I've requested. Change of range of assemblies. Again, the selectors work the same way they do for the parts, except I'm doing it for assemblies. And this one again is the same thing. I'm going to assign a range of assemblies to be either count items or length items. Again, it's only used by one of the digital screen takeoff programs. Replace components is probably the most used item. In this tab, replace parts in assemblies is the most used tab. For example, if I had a group of assemblies, let's just say from assembly 30,000 to assembly 30,005, I wanted to replace all the die-cast fittings, the die-cast couplings, with set screw steel couplings. So I would replace this part number, and the part number for die-cast couplings is 23007013713711. Now, the only way I know that is because I had a printed copy of my parts file to be able to go in and find it. So there's my EMT coupling compression die-cast, and here I want to replace that with 230070136561. So you can realize the importance of having a printed copy of your parts file. Once I've got that set up, I click the replace button, and replace it in that group of items that I had that item, that I have an EMT coupling compression die cast, that part number, it will replace it and put in an EMT coupling set screwed steel. It's a very easy way of changing certain components for a different component, and doesn't matter what you're changing, you can change it over that whole range of items. This tab also has an additional feature, and I'll go back here and select it. I want to go in and I'm going to select blank for this, and I put in a blank part in here so I could show you. You may not have this. Now I'm going to add a part to this item. Let's say for some reason or other I want it, this is unrealistic, but anyway, just to pick an item, I'm going to pick an item. As long as this field is blank, has nothing in it, I can add a part to a range of assemblies, and I will add the same part and the same quantity, and I'm going to enter a quantity over here. I'm going to put 100 feet in here in this whole group. From this outlet to that outlet, I'm going to add 100 feet of number 8 THW copper stranded, and the program will just automatically go add it to a whole range of items. So if you have outlets, or if you have assemblies that need a single component, this is a very easy and fast way to add that to it. Replacing account codes in parts is again the selector from this part and this to this part, or the beginning to end. You choose the range of parts that you want to do. You're going to replace an account code with another account code, and it will automatically just go in and do this. I'm going to give you a couple of hints. When I was doing this for a large contractor, we found that it was important to have in the account code file some temporary locations where we could break down things. He wanted to break down the branch rough items into separate groups of branch rough, and he did. And in order to do that, we had to break pieces of it out. So we created temporary locations, and then we reconsolidated it, and what we ended up doing is doing a job in about a couple of hours that would have normally taken us, if we'd have done each one of them individually, maybe a couple of days. It was very quick and very easy to do. So it's a very powerful tool as well. Replacing vendors is the same type of thing. You select the range of items you want to do, and you replace one vendor with a different vendor, from not price updated to this vendor or that vendor. If you're using the vendor information file for something, that's a very important component to have in your system and use. Change part quantity in a range of assemblies. The change part quantity in this range of assembly, it is very a powerful item also. If you have the wrong quantity in there and you want to change it in that range of assemblies, let's say from 30,006 to 30,010, I want to change this quantity, this part that's in there, from this quantity to that quantity. It will go in and find that whatever value was in there and change the original quantity, which you will have to tell it what it was. You'll have to change that quantity to a new quantity. It's a very, very powerful tool as well. Makes it very quick to be able to go and modify a whole group of assemblies in a very short period of time. This concludes the WinTRF range change utility video.